Two experts join me here in Atlanta now to discuss both the San Francisco police officers and the Black Lives Matter arrests. On the far end of the table, you see Pate. He's a criminal defense and constitutional attorney. Next to me, Cedric Alexander, a CNN law enforcement analyst. Welcome to you both. So you have this Superior Court judge in San Francisco, Ernest Goldsmith, saying these officers can keep their job because the police department didn't act in time, something established under California's Peace Officers Bill of Rights. Cedric, first to you, what is the legal basis for that? Because many other states have this same thing.
Well, many of them do. I can't speak specifically to California, but part of the problem is going to be here being that they were outside of the date to bring any type of internal charges against these officers. The problem here is going to be, of course, some of these officers will remain inside that police department. It certainly doesn't build any trust and legitimacy out in that community where we know that these statements were made, these racist comments were made. These officers are still members of that department. So that department is going to have to do a great deal of work, being that these officers are still going to be part of that organization. That leadership throughout that department is going to have to do a great deal of work in order to bring some trust and legitimacy now between that department, between that police department, that community. That's going to be a challenge.
Well, Paige, to you, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement essentially wants many of these protections lifted that exist within these police union contracts so that there can be this building in trust between the officers and the community. In your experience, you know, do these types of things end up protecting officers most of the time, or do they boost public support for them when this information comes out?
Well, I think they certainly protect the officers. That's clearly the intention behind these bills of rights. And in fact, it is state law in California that if you are investigating a police officer, if you don't do it within a year, then you can't do anything to the officer, no matter how bad the misconduct is. Now, I don't think the issue is over yet, though. They are going to appeal that decision. The city is still trying to get rid of these officers, and there are some exceptions in the Bill of Rights. If there's an ongoing criminal investigation, if the investigation involves more than one officer or more than one jurisdiction, then there's some exceptions that will allow you to wait longer than 1 year, and they're going to still argue that issue on appeal.
Okay, so there may be some wiggle room there. Let's now discuss the Mall of America protests. The purpose of this was that the Black Lives Matter movement wants attention brought to video of Jamar Clark, a 24-year-old black man who was shot and killed by police. Witnesses say it was while he was in handcuffs. The police haven't really fleshed out that story. But Cedric, we now have arrests being made in the Mall of America because of the protests. Are the organizers going about this the right way to get this video released?
Well, you know, whatever reason they're deciding they want to use this type of method in order to get their attention, how they come about this, I'm not clear about. But here's part of the challenge going to be for that community at large, is that you do not want to take people in that community, inside that community, who may be allies to you and push them away from you. Because there are people that want to go into that mall, they want to do their Christmas shopping, they want to go into the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport to get out and visit family and friends. And they may be huge supporters of yours. But when you interrupt and have this type of social interruption, and certainly against people that may be supporters of you, it makes it very difficult to people to be empathetic to your fight and to your cause. So I'm not certain if there could have been some other way of demonstrating in that community what their dislikes and distrusts are, because it is a long-standing history of distrust between police and community. Right. But what you don't want to do is ostracize those that may be supporters of yours by putting them over here with everybody else and interrupting their freedoms and their inside their own democracy in this country as well, too.
And Paige, what are your thoughts on releasing the video in the first place? In many cases, only once the video is released, we saw this in Chicago, is there public outrage and do police officers really get punished? Would you support the release of this video, and why wouldn't more departments want to make these things public?
Errol, I think that's incredibly important. And while you may question their methods, and I certainly understand that criticism, you can't question their frustration at the lack of transparency. And we did see that in Chicago. A lot of the frustration in Chicago is not the fact that they waited so long to charge this officer. It's the fact that no one knew. And the police had this tape. They knew what happened. They knew how McDonald was shot. and nothing was done for such a period of time. So you understand why these protesters are so upset and why they're taking to the streets.
Well, I appreciate both of you coming in and talking with me about these issues. There will be many more ahead shortly, so you're welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Cedric Alexander, a CNN law enforcement analyst, and Paige Pate is a criminal defense and constitutional attorney. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.